The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched wider than 10 football fields. Its crystal walls rose higher than the tallest buildings on Earth. Hundreds of alien beings filled the curved seats that circled the center stage. Their voices mixed together in a low hum that echoed through the massive space. Commander Zephyrion walked to the center of the hall. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. Arms moved as he spoke, each one holding a different datapad. The tall alien cleared his throat, and the hall became quiet. "Fellow council members," he began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "Today, I present my report on the primitive worlds in Sector 7. Most are not worth our attention, but one system has caught our interest for all the wrong reasons." Laughter rippled through the audience. Several aliens leaned forward in their seats, eager to hear about another backward species that thought they were important. "The system is called Sol," Zephyrion continued. "The third planet from their star is inhabited by creatures that call themselves humans. They are bipedal mammals, much like the Altarians, but far less developed." High Curator Vexthera raised one of her crystal arms. Her body looked like living glass, and light danced through her transparent form. "How primitive are we talking about, Commander? Do they still use fire for cooking?" Some more laughter filled the hall. Zephyrion smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "K. They have moved beyond fire, Curator. K. They have achieved basic spaceflight, but barely. Their most advanced ships still use chemical rockets." "Chemical rockets? Can you believe it?" "God." The laughter grew louder. Ambassador Krell of the Void Collective shook his massive head. His purple skin rippled with amusement. "Chemical rockets. We stopped using those 3,000 years ago. What do they use for faster-than-light travel?" "That is the best part," Zephyrion said, his forearms spreading wide. "They do not have faster-than-light travel. They are trapped in their own system like insects in a jar." The hall erupted in laughter and jeers. Some aliens stood up and clapped their various appendages. Together, others made noise with their breathing holes that sounded like mechanical wheezing. "But wait," Zephyrion said, raising his arms for silence. "It gets better. These humans have not even unified their own planet. They still fight among themselves. Wars, conflicts, disagreements about everything. They have over 200 separate nations, each with different laws and customs." High Curator Vexthera's crystal form shimmered with what looked like amusement. 200 nations on one small world. "How do they get anything done?" "They do not," Zephyrion replied. "That is why they are still using chemical rockets. While we have created vast empires spanning thousands of worlds, they cannot even agree on a single planetary government." In the shadows near the back of the hall, a figure sat quietly. Dr. Jake Morrison looked human, but the other council members thought he was just another research assistant. He wore the simple gray robes that marked him as a servant of the crystalline hegemony. His job was to fetch documents and take notes for the real diplomats, but Jake was not really a servant. He was a human, sent to learn about the galactic community. For 3 years, he had lived among the aliens, watching and listening. He had learned their languages and their customs. And now he was hearing what they really thought about his people. "Tell us more about their technology," demanded General Worth of the Nexarian Empire. His metallic body clanked as he moved in his seat. "What weapons do they have?" Zephyrion consulted another datapad. "Primitive nuclear weapons, basic projectile weapons, some guided missiles. Nothing that could threaten even our oldest ships. Their most powerful weapons could not damage our shields." "What about their population?" asked Curator Vexthera. "How many of these humans exist?" "Approximately 8 billion, Zephyrion answered. "But they are spread across their entire planet. Most live in cities, but they also have rural areas where they grow food using ancient farming methods. Ambassador Krell laughed so hard, his purple skin turned darker. 8 billion primitives who could not leave their own system. They sound like perfect entertainment. Entertainment? General Vorth asked. Think about it, Krell said, his voice filled with amusement. We could turn their world into a nature preserve, or maybe a zoo. Imagine bringing visitors to watch the primitive humans in their natural habitat. It would be quite popular. The suggestion caused another wave of laughter. Several council members began discussing the idea seriously. They talked about building observation stations in orbit around Earth. They wondered if humans would perform tricks for food like trained animals. Jake's hands clenched into fists under his gray robes. He kept his face calm, but inside he was burning with anger. These aliens saw his people as nothing more than amusing creatures to be watched and mocked. What about their culture? Asked historian Quilks of the academic consortium. Her feathered body was bright yellow, and her beak clicked as she spoke. Do they have art, music, literature? Svarian waved one of his hands dismissively. Primitive expressions of basic emotions. Their art is simple drawings and sculptures. Their music is just organized noise. Their literature consists of simple stories about their daily lives and imaginary adventures. Imaginary adventures. Quilks's feathers ruffled with what might have been curiosity. They write fiction about traveling to other worlds, Zephyrian explained. Stories about meeting alien races and having grand adventures among the stars. It is quite amusing, really. They dream about the very things we do every day, but they will never achieve them. The council members found this hilarious. They laughed at the idea of humans writing stories about space travel while being unable to leave their own solar system. Some suggested that human fiction might be worth studying as an example of primitive, wishful thinking. So, what is your recommendation, Commander? Asked the council president, an ancient being whose species have been traveling the stars for 10,000 years. Should we make contact with these humans? Spherian shook his head. I recommend we leave them alone for now. In another century, they might be ready for limited contact. But currently, they are too primitive to understand galactic civilization. Any attempt to communicate with them would likely cause panic and chaos. Agreed, said High Curator Vextera. Let them develop naturally. Perhaps in 100 years, they will have achieved basic interplanetary travel. Then we can consider introducing them to galactic society as junior members. The council voted unanimously to ignore humanity for another century. As the session ended and the various aliens began to leave, Jake Morrison sat quietly in his corner. He waited until the hall was nearly empty before standing up and walking toward the exit. His mind was already working on the message he would send back to Earth. The aliens had no idea what was coming. They thought humans were primitive and helpless. They had no clue about the secret projects hidden beneath Earth's surface. They did not know about the advanced technology that human scientists had developed in secret. Most importantly, they had no idea that Jake Morrison was not alone. There were other humans scattered throughout the galaxy, all of them watching and learning and preparing for the day when Earth would reveal its true strength. As Jake walked through the corridors of the council building, he allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had laughed at the human myth. Soon, they would learn the truth about what humans could really do. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, massive machines hummed with quiet power. The underground facilities stretched for miles in every direction. Bright lights hung from the ceiling, making the tunnels as bright as day. Workers in blue uniforms moved through the corridors, carrying tools and data pads. The air smelled of metal and electricity. General Patricia Hayes walked through the main corridor, her boots clicking on the polished floor. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, and medals covered her chest. Behind her walked 3 other officers, all of them trying to keep up with her quick pace. Status report on Project Starforge, she said, without looking back. Colonel Martin Price, okay, a man with a thick mustache, consulted his datapad. All systems are green, General. Okay, construction is ahead of schedule. Teve, the shipyards are working at full capacity. They passed through a security checkpoint where guards in black armor scanned their identification cards. Heavy doors made of thick metal slid open with a quiet hiss. Beyond the doors lay the heart of the facility. The main chamber was huge. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above. Rows of workstations filled the floor, each one occupied by scientists and engineers. Massive screens showed star maps, technical drawings, and scrolling lines of code. The sound of keyboards clicking mixed with the hum of powerful computers. Dr. Lisa Chang stood at the central command station. She was a small woman with black hair tied back in a neat bun. Her white lab coat was covered with pockets, each one filled with different tools and devices. When she saw General Hayes approaching, she smiled and waved. "General, perfect timing," Dr. Chang said. "We just completed the final tests on the new stealth system. You need to see this." She led them to a large window that looked down into a testing chamber. The chamber was as big as an airplane hangar. In the center sat what looked like a small spacecraft, about the size of a school bus. Its surface was smooth and black, with no visible engines or weapons. "Watch this," Dr. Chang said. She pressed a button on her control panel. The spacecraft began to fade. First, it became transparent, like glass. Then, it became harder and harder to see. Within seconds, it had completely disappeared. The chamber looked empty. "Credible," whispered Colonel Price. "It is completely invisible." Dr. Chang shook her head. "Not invisible. Something much better. The ship has moved slightly out of normal space-time. It exists in a parallel dimension, just a tiny step away from our reality. Enemy sensors cannot detect it because it is not technically in the same universe." General Hayes nodded slowly. "How long can it stay hidden?" "As long as the crew wants," Dr. Chang replied. "The power drain is minimal. We tested it for 6 months with no problems." They walked to another section of the facility. Here, engineer Carlos Rivera was working on a different kind of technology. Carlos was a young man with oil-stained hands and bright eyes. He stood next to a machine that looked like a giant engine. "Carlos, show the general what you have been working on," Dr. Chang said. Carlos grinned and patted the side of the machine. "This is our new power source, General. Call it an emotion engine. It converts human feelings into usable energy." "Explain," General Hayes said. "Well," Carlos began, "we discovered that human emotions create a kind of energy field. Most species in the galaxy have very controlled emotions. They think feelings are wasteful, but we learned how to capture that energy and use it." He pointed to a series of cables that ran from the machine into the wall. "The more determined and passionate the crew, the more power the ship produces. Fear, anger, love, hope, all of these emotions make us stronger. When humans are fighting for something they believe in, our ships become incredibly powerful." Rebecca Stone, a physicist with red hair and freckles, joined the conversation. "We tested it with different crews," she said. "A crew that was calm and emotionless could barely power basic systems. But a crew that was fighting to protect their families produced enough energy to power a battle fleet." General Hayes smiled for the first time that day. "Okay, the aliens think our emotions make us weak. Okay, that is their biggest mistake," Rebecca said. "They have spent thousands of years trying to control their feelings. They see emotion as primitive and dangerous. But we have learned to use it as fuel." They moved to another area where Captain Nathan Cross was training with his senior officers. Nathan was a man in his 40s with short brown hair and steady hands. He stood in front of a large table covered with holographic displays showing different star systems. "Captain Cross," General Hayes called out, "how is the crew training progressing?" Nathan saluted. "Excellent, General. Okay, we have identified the weaknesses of 23 different alien civilizations. The intelligence that Dr. Morrison has been sending us is incredibly valuable. He gestured to the holographic display. Look at this. The Altarian Empire has powerful weapons, but their battle tactics have not changed in 500 years. They fight like they are performing in a ceremony. It's very formal, very predictable. Lieutenant Amy Foster, a young woman with blonde hair, pointed to another display. The crystalline hegemony relies entirely on their advanced shields, but their ships are slow and hard to maneuver. If we can get close enough, we can disable them easily. What about the Void Collective? General Hayes asked. They use psychic attacks to confuse their enemies, Nathan replied. But we have developed mental shields that not only block their attacks, but send feedback that hurts them. Their greatest weapon becomes useless against us. Dr. Chang led them to an observation deck that looked out over the main construction area. Below them, dozens of spacecraft were being built. The ships were sleek and powerful, unlike anything that had ever existed before. Some were as small as fighter jets. Others were as big as aircraft carriers. How many ships do we have? General Hayes asked. This facility has produced 47 ships of various sizes, Dr. Chang answered. But this is just one of 12 facilities worldwide. Its total fleet numbers over 600 vessels. She pointed to a map on the wall that showed locations around the world. We have facilities in Australia, Brazil, Russia, and 8 other countries. Each one specializes in different types of technology. The facility in the Amazon builds our biological systems. The one in Siberia focuses on weapons. The underwater base in the Pacific Ocean creates our communication networks. General Hayes nodded. And the aliens have no idea any of this exists. None at all, Dr. Chang confirmed. Their orbital sensors show them exactly what we want them to see. Old-fashioned cities, primitive factories, chemical rockets. They think we are still fighting with gunpowder and steel. A communication officer approached the group. General Hayes, we just received a priority message from Dr. Morrison. The officer handed her a datapad. General Hayes read the message. Quickly, her expression growing serious. The Galactic Council has decided to ignore humanity for another century. They think we are too primitive to contact. Captain Cross stepped forward. General, my crews are ready. The ships are ready. We have been preparing for this moment for years. General Hayes looked around the facility. Hundreds of people were working to make humanity ready for its debut on the galactic stage. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, and support staff, all of them united by a single goal. They had spent decades building in secret, preparing for the day when Earth would reveal its true strength. Very well, she said finally. Send word to all facilities. Operation Revelation begins in 72 hours. It is time to introduce ourselves to the galaxy. Alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Not emergency alarms, but the special signal that everyone had been waiting to hear. The preparation phase was ending. The action phase was about to begin, as workers rushed to their stations and final preparations began. General Hayes stood quietly at the observation window. Soon, the aliens who had laughed at humanity would learn the truth. Earth was not a primitive world full of backward creatures. It was the home of the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen, and they were about to make their presence known. The trade convoy moved slowly through the Kepler corridor. 15 massive cargo ships drifted through space like floating cities. Each ship was several miles long and carried goods from dozens of different worlds. Rare metals from the mining planets, exotic foods from agricultural worlds, and advanced technology from the core systems. Admiral Kethmorian stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Celestial Dominance. He was a tall Altarian with blue skin and 4 arms. His uniform was covered with medals that showed his long service in the Navy, but those medals had been earned during peacetime. He had never fought in a real battle. "Status report," he said to his navigation officer. Lieutenant Sexty checked his instruments. "All ships maintaining proper formation, Admiral. We are 3 hours away from the Nexus station. No problems detected." The bridge crew looked bored. This escort mission was routine work. The Kepler corridor had been safe for over 2 centuries. The last pirate attack had happened before any of them were born. Most of the time, escort duty meant filling out paperwork and checking cargo manifests. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "we are getting some strange readings from the long-range sensors." Admiral Kethmorian walked over to the sensor station. "Okay." The screen showed the normal display of empty space ahead of them. "Okay, what kind of readings?" "Spatial distortions," the sensor operator replied. "But they are not matching any known phenomenon. No. It almost looks like ships, but the energy signatures are completely unknown." "Pirates?" asked Lieutenant Sextai. The Admiral shook his head. "No pirate group has technology that we cannot identify. Keep monitoring. It is probably just solar radiation or asteroid debris." But the readings were getting stronger. Whatever was out there was big. Much bigger than pirates usually traveled in. Suddenly, space in front of them began to change. Stars seemed to bend and twist. Reality itself looked like it was being stretched. Then, one by one, ships began to appear out of nothing. The first ship was massive. It was at least 5 miles long, with a sleek black hull that seemed to absorb light. Strange energy patterns flowed across its surface like living lightning. The design was unlike anything in the galactic database. Then more ships appeared. 12 in total, all of them huge and powerful. Okay, they formed a perfect line across the convoy's path. Their weapons were not visible, but everyone on the bridge could feel the dangerous energy coming from them. "Red alert," Admiral Kethmorian shouted. "All ships, battle stations." The escort fleet consisted of 6 warships, each one armed with the best weapons the Altarian Empire could build. Their shields activated with a blue glow. Their weapons powered up and targeted the unknown vessels. But compared to the massive black ships, they looked like children's toys. On the bridge of the lead human ship, the UES Defiance, Captain Nathan Cross sat calmly in his command chair. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. The ship's systems hummed with power, generated by the crew's determination and excitement. "All ships, report ready, Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her position at the communications console. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were bright with anticipation. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," Captain Cross ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the celestial dominance. Admiral Kethmorian's 4 arms were moving frantically as he tried to coordinate his ship's defenses. When he saw the human face on his screen, his blue skin turned pale. "I am Captain Nathan Cross of the United Earth Space Force," Nathan said calmly. "I am speaking on behalf of humanity and the planet Earth." Admiral Kethmorian stared at the screen in shock. "Impossible. Humans do not have space travel capabilities. Okay? Our reports clearly state that your species is primitive." Captain Cross smiled. "Your reports were incomplete, Admiral. We have been watching your people for quite some time. We know about the Galactic Council. We know about your trade routes. And we know about your opinions of humanity." "How, Admiral?" Kethmorian asked. "How did you build ships like these? How did you develop faster-than-light travel?" "It's the same way we developed everything else," Captain Cross replied. "Through hard work, creativity, and the refusal to accept limitations. Your people see emotion as weakness. We learned to use it as strength." To demonstrate his point, Captain Cross gave a simple hand signal. The used Defiance began to move in ways that should have been impossible. The massive ship spun on its axis while continuing forward. It moved up and down and sideways, all at the same time. The alien sensors could not track its movements. Then the ship did something even more amazing. It seemed to split into 3 separate images. Each image moved in a different direction, but all of them looked completely solid and real. Holographic projections. Admiral Kethmorian asked. Not projections, Captain Cross said. Dimensional. Shifting. We exist in 3 different realities at the same time. Your weapons cannot target something that is not entirely in your dimension. The other human ships began their own demonstrations. One ship seemed to disappear completely, then reappeared behind the alien formation. Another ship grew brighter and brighter until it looked like a small star. A third ship began moving faster than the alien sensors could track. This is impossible, Lieutenant Sextai whispered. No species develops this fast. It takes thousands of years to reach this level of technology. Captain Cross heard the comment through the open communication channel. You are thinking like the Galactic Council, Lieutenant. You assume that all species must follow the same path of development. But humans do not follow anyone else's rules. The UES Defiance moved closer to the celestial dominance. As it approached the alien ships, systems began to malfunction. Lights flickered on and off. Computer screens showed random data. The artificial gravity wavered, making everyone feel dizzy. What are you doing to our ship? Admiral Kethmorian demanded. Nothing hostile, Captain Cross assured him. Our ships produce an energy field that interferes with standard galactic technology. It is a side effect of our emotion-based power systems. Do not worry. The effect is temporary. To prove his point, the UES Defiance pulled back. Immediately, the alien ship's systems returned to normal. The lights stopped flickering. The computers began working properly again. We could have destroyed your entire fleet before you even knew we were here, Captain Cross continued. But we did not come here to fight. We came here to deliver a message. What message? Admiral Kethmorian asked. Humanity is claiming its place in the galactic community. We are not asking for permission. We are not requesting approval from the Galactic Council. We are simply informing you that we exist and that we demand to be treated as equals. Captain Cross gestured, and several screens on the alien bridge began showing images. Pictures of human colonies on distant worlds. Video of human ships traveling between star systems. Data showing human technology that surpassed anything the aliens had seen before. You have been watching our home world, Captain Cross said. But you are not watching carefully enough while you were looking at our cities. In our primitive rockets, we were building an interstellar civilization. We have colonies on 47 different worlds. Our ships have been traveling the galaxy for 20 years. Admiral Kethmorian looked at the images in disbelief. How did you hide all of this from our sensors? Because you saw what you expected to see, Captain Cross replied. You decided we were primitive, so you stopped looking for evidence that we were advanced. You made assumptions, and those assumptions blinded you to the truth. The human fleet began to spread out, surrounding the alien convoy, but they did not take threatening positions. Instead, they arranged themselves in a protective formation. Your cargo ships are free to continue their journey, Captain Cross announced. We have no interest in your trade goods. But your escort fleet will accompany us to the Galactic Council. It is time for humanity to introduce itself properly. Admiring, Kethmorian realized he had no choice. His ships were outnumbered and outgunned by technology he could not understand. But more than that, he was curious. How had humanity achieved so much in secret? Very well, he said finally. Achiza, we will escort you to Zarian Prime. But I warn you, the Council would not be pleased by this demonstration. Captain Cross smiled again. Admiral, the Council's pleasure is the least of our concerns. They laughed at the human myth. Now they will learn what humans can really do. The combined fleet turned towards Arian Prime. News of the encounter spread quickly through galactic communication networks. Within hours, every civilization in known space had heard the impossible news. Humanity had emerged from their small world, and they were coming to change everything. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Emergency sessions had been called for 3 days straight. Angry voices filled the massive chamber as representatives argued with each other. The normal calm order of galactic government had completely collapsed. High Curator Vixdara stood at her crystal podium, her transparent body flickering with stress patterns. In her hands, she held dozens of reports, each one more shocking than the last. "The situation is worse than we first thought," she announced to the crowded hall. 17 separate human fleets have appeared simultaneously across the galaxy, Commander. Zephyrian rushed to the center of the hall, his blue skin darker than usual. His forearms waved frantically as he spoke. "Reports are coming in from everywhere. Human colonies on worlds we thought were uninhabited. Space stations in systems we considered empty. They have been living right under our noses for decades." Ambassador Krell of the Void Collective made angry noises through his breathing holes. "This is impossible. Our psychic networks monitor all intelligent life in the galaxy. How could an entire civilization hide from us?" A new voice spoke from the back of the hall. Dr. Jake Morrison stepped out of the shadows, no longer wearing the gray robes of a servant. Instead, he wore a crisp military uniform with the emblem of United Earth. "Because you only see what you expect to see, Ambassador Krell." The hall erupted in surprised shouts. Several security guards moved toward Jake, but he held up his hands peacefully. "I am here as an official representative of humanity. My name is Dr. Jake Morrison, and I have been living among you for 3 years." High Curator Vexthera's crystal form turned bright red with anger. "You have been spying on us." "I have been learning about you," Jake corrected. "The same way you have been observing humanity. The difference is that we paid attention to what we saw." General Vorth of the Nexarian Empire clanked forward in his metal armor. "How is this possible? Our most advanced sensors showed no signs of human technology beyond chemical rockets." Jake smiled. "That is because we wanted them to show that. We have been using holographic projections and dimensional shifting to hide our real activities. While you were watching our primitive rockets, we were building starships in hidden facilities." He activated a small device on his wrist. The air above the hall filled with 3-dimensional images. They showed massive human cities on distant worlds, fleets of advanced starships traveling between star systems, factories and research centers that rivaled anything the Council had ever seen. "The colony on Kepler 404-B has been there for 15 years, Jake explained. New Geneva on Ross 128b has been operational for 12 years. The mining stations in the Proxima Centauri system have been sending resources back to Earth for 8 years. Historian Quilks of the Academic Consortium fluffed her yellow feathers nervously. "But how did you develop such advanced technology so quickly? We should take thousands of years to reach this level. It would take thousands of years if we followed your methods," Jake replied. "But humans do not think like other species. We share information freely between our nations. We compete with each other, which drives innovation. And most importantly, we use our emotions as fuel for our technology." Ambassador Krell made a sound like mechanical laughter. "Emotions as fuel? That is primitive nonsense." Jake's expression became serious. "Is it? Your psychic networks have been compromised, Ambassador. Every message you have sent for the past 6 months has been intercepted by human intelligence. We know about your secret military plans. We know about your trade agreements. We even know about your personal correspondence with your family." The hall fell silent. Ambassador Krell's purple skin turned pale. "That is impossible. School. Our psychic communications cannot be intercepted by non-psychic species. They can be intercepted by species that understand how to use emotion-based technology. Jake said, our mental shields do not just block psychic attacks. They also allow us to listen in on psychic communications without being detected. The main doors of the hall opened with a loud sound. General Patricia Hayes walked in, followed by a group of humans in military uniforms. Each human carried themselves with confidence and purpose. Their eyes were alert and intelligent. They looked like people who were used to getting things done. I'm General Patricia Hayes, official ambassador from the United Earth government, she announced. Her voice carried clearly through the hall. I am here to discuss humanity's place in the galactic community. Curator Vextera S. crystal form flickered rapidly. You have no place here. This is a council of advanced civilizations. Your species is not qualified for membership. General Hayes smiled coldly. Curator, your definition of advance seems to be based on age rather than capability. Humanity may be young, but we have already surpassed most council members in technology and military power. She gestured to one of her officers, who activated a portable holographic projector. The air filled with the images of human military capabilities. Ships that could move faster than light in multiple dimensions. Weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them. Defensive systems that could protect planets from any known threat. These images were taken during our encounter with Admiral Cathmorian's fleet. General Hayes continued. As you can see, our ships are superior to anything in the galactic military database. Commander Zephyrian stepped forward angrily. This is an insult to the dignity of the Council. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for thousands of years. We will not allow upstart primitives to threaten that peace. We are not threatening peace, General Hayes replied calmly. We are offering partnership. Humanity is willing to share our technology and knowledge with all peaceful civilizations. But we will not accept being treated as inferior beings. Ambassador Tyler Rodriguez stepped up beside General Hayes. He was a calm man with intelligent eyes and careful movements. The current system of galactic government is outdated, he said. It's based on the assumption that older civilizations are automatically superior to younger ones. But age does not equal wisdom, and tradition does not equal progress. General Vort's metal armor clanked as he moved. What are you proposing? A new system, Tyler replied. One based on mutual respect and cooperation, rather than hierarchy and control. Species should be judged by their actions and capabilities, not by how long they have been traveling in space. Professor Helen Carter, a linguistics expert, addressed the hall in perfect galactic standard. Then she switched to Altarian, then to crystalline harmonic speech, then to Nexarian mechanical language. She spoke in 7 different alien languages without pause. Humanity has already learned to communicate with all of your species, she said. We have studied your cultures, your histories, and your ways of thinking. We understand you better than you understand yourselves. Richard Barnes, an economist, stepped forward with a data pad. We have also analyzed your trade systems. The current galactic economy is inefficient and unfair. Newer species are forced to trade raw materials for finished goods, keeping them permanently dependent on older civilizations. He activated his own holographic display. Humanity proposes a new economic model based on shared technology and equal partnership. Every species contributes what they do best, and everyone benefits from the combined knowledge. The council members looked at each other uncertainly. Everything they thought they knew about the galaxy was being challenged. The careful system they had maintained for thousands of years was suddenly obsolete. Dr. Morrison stepped forward again. You have a choice, he said quietly. You can accept humanity as an equal partner and work together to build a better galactic civilization. Or You can try to maintain the old system by force. What happens if we choose force? Asked General. Fourth General Hayes answered without emotion. Then you will lose. Our defensive capabilities are already deployed around every major council world. We could disable your entire military network in less than 6 hours, but we would rather work together than fight. High Curator Vextera looked around the hall at her fellow council members. Fear and uncertainty showed in their faces and postures. The galaxy they had controlled for so long was changing, whether they wanted it to or not. We need time to consider your proposals, she said finally. You have 3 days, General Hayes replied. After that, humanity will proceed with our plans, regardless of your decision. The age of human isolation is over. We are here to stay. 3 alien fleets moved silently through space toward Earth. The ships belonged to the Altarian Empire, the Nexarian Republic, and the Crystalline Hegemony. General Vorth had convinced his allies that humanity needed to be stopped before they could change the galactic order forever. Target the primitive homeworld, General Vorth commanded from his flagship. Once we destroy Earth, the human colonies will surrender. But as the combined fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, they found something completely unexpected. Earth was not defenseless. Luna, Earth's moon, suddenly came alive with weapons. What had looked like simple mining equipment revealed itself as massive defense cannons. Bright beams of energy shot out from the lunar surface, striking the alien ships before they could react. Captain Susan Blake commanded Earth's defense from the orbital station. Liberty, she was a calm woman with short red hair and steady hands. Around her, dozens of officers worked at control stations that coordinated the planet's defenses. All defensive systems online, reported Lieutenant Paul Davis from his weapons console. Luna Base reports full readiness. Mars Colony has launched their fighter squadrons. On the main screen, Captain Blake watched as the alien attack force tried to advance. Everywhere they turned, new threats appeared. The asteroid belt erupted with hidden weapons platforms. What had looked like simple space rocks revealed themselves as camouflaged battle stations. Mars Colony deployed hundreds of small fighter craft that moved like angry bees around the larger alien ships. Each fighter was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could think and react faster than any biological pilot. Send a message to the alien fleet, Captain Blake ordered. Communications Officer Lisa Park opened a channel to all the attacking ships. Captain Blake's face appeared on their screens, showing no fear or anger, only calm determination. This is Captain Susan Blake of Earth Defense Command, she said. You have entered Sol System with hostile intent. Your weapons are locked onto civilian targets. Stand down immediately or face the consequences. General Vorth appeared on the return channel, his metal face twisted with rage. Surrender, human. Your primitive world cannot stand against the combined might of 3 galactic powers. Captain Blake smiled slightly. General, you made the same mistake as the Galactic Council. You assumed we were primitive because that is what you wanted to see. She nodded to Lieutenant Davis, who activated Earth's main defensive grid. Suddenly, every satellite orbiting Earth revealed its true purpose. Communication satellites became weapons platforms, while their monitoring stations turned into sensor arrays. Space telescopes became targeting systems. The alien fleet found themselves surrounded by thousands of defensive units, all working together with perfect coordination. Every move they made was predicted and countered before they could complete it. Impossible, whispered Admiral Kethmorian, who had been forced to join the attack fleet. How long have you been preparing for this? 50 years, Captain Blake replied. Ever since we first detected alien observation satellites in our system, we knew this day would come. We have been ready for it since before most of your crew were born. The battle was swift and decisive. Human weapons disabled alien ships without destroying them completely. Instead of killing the alien crews, Earth's Defenders used stunning energy beams that knocked out their enemies without permanent harm. Within 2 hours, the entire attack fleet was floating helplessly in space. Their engines were dead, their weapons were offline, but their life support systems continued to work normally. Medical ships are standing by to assist your crews, Captain Blake announced to the disabled fleet. We will provide food, water, and medical care to anyone who needs it. When your ships are repaired, you're free to return home. The message was broadcast not just to the attack fleet, but to the entire galaxy through communication networks that humanity had been secretly accessing for years. Every civilized world heard Captain Blake's words and saw the images of human mercy toward defeated enemies on Zarian Prime. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as their military forces were defeated and then offered help by the same humans they had tried to destroy. High Curator Vexthera's crystal form flickered with confusion. They could have destroyed our fleets completely. Why did they show mercy? Dr. Jake Morrison, still standing in the council hall, answered her question. Because that is what humans do. We fight when we must, but we prefer to make friends out of enemies. General Patricia Hayes stepped forward. The demonstration is complete. Humanity has proven that we can defend ourselves against any threat. But we have also proven that we do not seek conquest or revenge. She activated a new holographic display that showed plans for a different kind of galactic government. We propose the creation of the new Galactic Assembly. Every species will have an equal vote, regardless of age or size. Decisions will be made based on merit and consensus, not on tradition and hierarchy. Ambassador Tyler Rodriguez took over the presentation. The assembly will focus on cooperation rather than control. Species will be encouraged to develop their own unique strengths while sharing knowledge and resources with others. Professor Helen Carter added, "We will establish cultural exchange programs so that different species can learn from each other. Art, music, literature, and philosophy will flow freely between worlds." Richard Barnes showed economic plans that would benefit everyone. Trade will be based on mutual advantage rather than exploitation. Newer species will have access to advanced technology in exchange for their own innovations and resources. 6 months later, the first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly took place. The location rotated between Earth and Zarian Prime, symbolizing the partnership between old and new ways of thinking. Dr. Jake Morrison had been elected as the first director of interspecies relations. His job was to help different species understand each other and work together effectively. Captain Nathan Cross now commanded the Galactic Defense Fleet, which included ships and crews from dozens of different worlds. The fleet's mission was to protect peaceful civilizations from threats and to explore unknown regions of space together. The former council members who had attacked Earth were not punished or excluded. Instead, they were invited to help build the new system. General Vorth became an advisor on military affairs. Kana helped design new scientific research programs. "We learned something important," General Vorth said during one of the assembly meetings. "Strength without wisdom leads to tyranny, but wisdom without strength leads to helplessness. Humanity taught us how to have both." The final scene took place in a school built on Luna, where children from dozens of different species learned together. Human teacher Maria Santos stood before a class that included young Altarians, crystallines, Nexarians, and beings from worlds that had never been contacted before. "Today, we are going to learn about the history of the galaxy," Maria said to her students. For thousands of years, different species lived separately from each other. They were afraid of change and suspicious of newcomers. A young Altarian student raised her hand. "What changed, Teacher Santos?" Maria smiled and looked out the window at Earth, which hung in the black sky like a blue and white jewel. Humanity arrived and showed everyone that being different does not mean being enemies. We learn that the galaxy is big enough for everyone to have a place. Outside the school, ships from hundreds of worlds came and went constantly. A soul system had become the busy heart of galactic civilization. Trade ships, exploration vessels, diplomatic shuttles, canned passenger transports filled the space around Earth. But most importantly, they all flew in peace. The age of fear and suspicion was over. The time of cooperation and friendship had begun, and it had all started when the aliens laughed at the human myth, right until the fleet arrived to show them the truth.